What's up, everybody? Welcome to the American Nomad podcast. I am the American Nomad, Rob Holly. We're on B camera over here, getting ready to get this show started. Gonna hit A camera. What's up, Random Nomad? Hey, volume should be okay today. I think I'm finally getting this thing ironed out, I believe. Let me know if you hear me okay, Random Nomad. Let me know how the volume is. I think we should be pretty good. Just gotta apologize. All good, awesome. Glad you can hear me. Hopefully my A camera's going right over here. I was scrambling here at the very end to get this podcast going today. I ended up getting a phone call from a long lost friend that I've known for, we figured it out, like 7 years. We worked on the O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story, O.J. Simpson together. And she gave me a surprise call, so we ended up talking for like 2 hours. Anyway, we got some stuff to talk about today. There's some stuff going on in Michigan if you haven't heard. So without further ado, let's get this show started. Alright, so we'll get the camera to focus here. There we go. Hey Matilda, what's going on? Good to see you guys. Well, some things have changed and some things have not changed. Let's talk about my perception changing. Because I had actually pretty much conceded. I know you guys, saw that I'd pretty much conceded last podcast, day after election, that, Joe Biden won it. I wasn't going to cry over spilt milk. But, hey, there's been some, there's been some pretty significant changes up around Michigan, if you haven't heard. Another thing that I noticed, like at 3 o'clock, 2:30 maybe 2 o'clock this morning, 1:45 this morning, Joe Biden just magically took the lead in Red Scarlet State, Georgia, which is kind of unbelievable when, in the last, since 1964, Georgia has went blue 3 times. One of the times was with their home state president, who was Jimmy Carter, so that's understandable. Then another one was a local election, and then another one was Bill Clinton. But Georgia didn't even go red. For blue for Obama. So the fact that he's all of a sudden that Georgia's going blue for Biden, yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I think common sense basically tells you there's some shenanigans going on. I didn't want to get on this whole voter fraud train, but I have been pointing out the things that just seem odd to me. And the big one that really made it feel like there was some shenanigans going on was the simple fact that Joe Biden surpassed Trump in Georgia. As soon as that happened, I was like, I don't know about that. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me when Texas is actually more blue. I would see Texas going blue before I ever saw Georgia going blue. I used to work in Georgia a lot. And in Peachtree City, which, if you know where, it's a beautiful, beautiful little suburb of Atlanta. I do know there's a huge population of black people in Atlanta, and there's actually been a lot of film industry people. A lot of the swamp donkeys, which is what I call them now, because they are the swamp. Democrats, and their motto or their official mascot is a donkey, so swamp donkeys. The swamp donkeys have been moving out of LA and relocating for the film industry that's going on in Atlanta. Like you have The Walking Dead that's filmed there. There's several other productions that's filming in Atlanta, so that actually does make sense to an extent. But I had one of my friends who I love her to death, and she's a amazing second assistant director. And I knew her when she was a DGA trainee on OJ funny that talking about OJ, the American Crime Story, People versus OJ Simpson. If you've never seen it, it's on Netflix, and it's I worked on that. I was a staff PA on that, so I actually worked on that, and I have a lot of great friends that I worked on in that production. It's still today, I think, my favorite production. The people that I met on there, even though most of them, like my friend Rachel Rush, she's a PA from Florida, which now she is a producer's writer assistant, I believe, is what her title is now. She's an amazing girl, and I know she's a crazy liberal, but I just love her to death. She's deleted me off Facebook as Facebook friends, but I still love her to death. She's still a good person, and she's got a good heart. Let's see. Random Nomad says, I think they are tied at 49.4% and Biden up like 2,000 votes. Yeah, but hey, Donald Amwana? Hey, hello, buddy. That's a new name. It's always awesome to see new people in the room. I love my regulars. Production assistant Terry S. Yes, a PA. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, a PA is a production assistant. And people don't understand, like, production assistants get a really bad rep. Or if it's not a big budget production, let's say it's a music video or a commercial or something like that, being a PA, you can't hardly pay me to be a PA on some kind of production like that, because you're just basically a grunt. You're putting up pop-ups, you're stocking coolers for the talent, you're putting ice in coolers and Cokes in coolers, and anything that any grunt would do is what you're doing if you're working on like some low-budget commercial or even music videos. Our PAs, I was assistant director on this music video a couple of nights ago, and our PAs, I felt sorry for them because they have to clean up the stage, they have to clean up everybody's mess, they have to help get lunch ready, called RTS, ready to serve, and all of these things. And it's my job as assistant director to make sure the PAs are doing everything they're supposed to do. But I actually work as a PA as well when it comes to what we're called is, you have commercial PAs that do commercials, but then you have PAs that work in like big budget stuff, and we're called entertainment PAs. And entertainment PA is an entertainment production assistant. And when you're an entertainment PA, getting coffee, you could get coffee for your cast and stuff, or the first AD or a director might ask for some coffee or something like that, but getting coffee is like one of your last things you're going to do. I've got this guy that's on my Facebook page that has been saying that I'm the coffee getter and stuff, and it just shows his stupidity when it comes to what happens on a production, on a movie set or a film set. You have production assistants that you have a first team PA. So a first team production assistant is the person that is in charge of talent. So let's say Lady Gaga, Tom Hanks, and Tom Cruise are your 3 stars on that production. That first team PA is responsible for getting them through hair and makeup, getting their principal cast through hair and makeup, getting them to sound and getting them wired before we need them on set. And then they're in charge of getting them to set when the first AD calls and says they're ready for Tom Cruise, or we're ready for Tom Hanks, or we're ready for Lady Gaga. The first team PA will go knock on their door, knock on the trailer, and they'll announce, they'll go stepping up, and they'll step up, knock on the door, and then Tom Hanks will say, go ahead, open the door. You open the door and you go, hey, Tom, just letting you know we're ready for you on set, buddy. I got the golf cart here for you. And then Tom Hanks is like, oh, okay. And he comes on out, and you got everything. You got your sides. So they have to have sides, which is their script. And then you make sure they have their sides, or they have anything that they need. They had a water bottle, and then you take them, put them on the golf cart. You let the first AD know, hey, I've got Tom. We're coming to set. And then you get in the golf cart. You take them towards set. Then when you get to set, you say, we're just arriving on set, moments away. And then you start walking in. I've got Tom. We just stepped on stage. And then you tell the first AD, okay, you got Tom on set. So the first AD is listening to this, the first assistant director, and he knows exactly where his talent is and when the talent is going to be on set. That's what a First team PA does. And then you have a walkie PA that's in charge of all the walkies on the whole production. If a crew member needs a walkie, it's their job to get a walkie. If we're having a big stunt day with a bunch of stunts and a bunch of stunt cars or picture cars, and they need to be walkies in those picture cars so the first AD can talk to the people in the stunt people in the cars, it's your job to get walkies and get them labeled and get them in every car. And then it's your job to get them back out of every car when that scene's over. Walkie PA is what I thought I wanted to do when I first got into this, because I was like, oh, I can do walkies. That's easy. It's one of the most complicated, because you've got to remember. I remember I was working on a set. I was walkie PA on this random day, and we were shooting this big action scene with all these cars, and I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, getting walkies to electric, getting walkies to props, getting all these walkies to these extra additional crew members. And then we wrapped everything up, and I was so relieved. I got all my walkies back from all of the crew that I'd put out, these additional walkies. And these walkies are like $800 a piece. So if you're missing walkies, it comes down on you hard. And so I got all these walkie-talkies back. I'm so happy with myself. And my second AD, who is he was a very seasoned second AD, decides, instead of letting me hang myself, he decides to give me a little help. And he saw that I'd relaxed and I felt like I'd got my job done. And he just very politely on the radio, he comes over and he goes, "Hey, Rav, did you get all your walkies out of those picture cars?" Oh, and my heart sank, because I knew I didn't get the walkies out of the picture cars, and the transpo had already come to pick up those picture cars, so they could be on the freeway with all of my walkies in them. And these are additional cases that you order that have to be sent back at the end of the shoot. So I'm freaking out. So I run sprinting over to, and you're not supposed to run on set, but I run sprinting over to where those cars were. I get on set to where the cars were, and the transpo is transportation. They're in charge of getting everybody to the set, getting all the cars off the set and everything. So there's a car hauler, like you would see that they transport new cars on. That's what they had all of these picture cars on. So you can picture me crawling up the side of this car hauler truck, grabbing my walkies, crawling all over this truck, grabbing all of my walkies off every picture car that they had loaded on this truck. And I let the transportation guy know that was loading cars. I was like, "Hey man, I got to get my walkies out of these cars. I forgot to get my walkies." He's like, yeah, go ahead. He goes, "We're not unloading them." I said, "No problem. I'll get them." So I'm crawling all up over this truck. So being a walkie PA is not it's not an easy job. It sounds like it is, but it's not. Then you have a BG PA. A BG PA, a background PA, is a PA that is in charge of all the background actors. If they need like 4 cops for this scene, you got to go get your cops. So you might have, I've had days when I was a BG PA where I had 400 or 500 background actors, and I'm in charge of all of them, every one of them, and they go into what they call holding. And then as they need them on set, you go and round them up. You go, "Okay, there's my little waitresses. They need the waitresses. Okay, waitresses, come with me. I'm taking you. They're ready for you on set." So you're just shuffling people back and forth. And then you have a key set PA, which is pretty much what I am now when I work as a PA. And a key set PA is basically with camera, making sure a camera's set and letting everybody know, letting the second AD or the second know that camera's set. The first AD, everybody know a camera's set, everything's set. The PAs have the talent on set, and everything's ready to go when you're ready to roll in speed. So that's kind of what PAs do. So it's in entertainment. We're called entertainment PAs. I know nobody probably even cares, but that's kind of the way it goes. Hey, Joel P., what's going on? Anyway, let's get back into what's going on in Michigan. So I know a lot of us, I've had a lot of my leftist friends like hitting me up talking about like, "Oh, quit crying. This is all perfectly legal. Everything that's happening is on the up and up." This is the same people for 3 years cried after Trump got elected that it was the Russians that elected him. My question to you people are, if you're watching this podcast or if you watch this podcast, where's the Russians? Joel P., where's the random nomad? Where's the Russians? We could use the Russians. Trump could use the Russians right now. They're like the biggest fanboy on the planet, right? Why were the Russians here in 2016 to help hand Trump the election in 2016? They've had 4 years now to get things going to even help him better now, but there's no Russians anywhere in sight to help Trump this election win this election. But what we are having is a lot of corruption, I would say, in the a random nomad in Russia right now. Exactly, they're in Russia right now. So we're having a lot of weird things going on with the ballot counting, and like I said, the same people that complained about Russia for 3 years, that there was all this Russia interference in the last election. Now everything is it's totally on the up and up. There's no fraud. With all these mail-in ballots, they're perfectly legal. There's nothing to see here. There's nothing to investigate, right? Well, we know that's actually not the case now, because in Michigan, if you have not heard this, I've posted it on my Facebook page, but I think you've probably heard this by now. But if you haven't heard this, in Michigan, the Michigan voter officials, ballot officials, have come out and said, this is the official Michigan people in charge of the election in Michigan have come out and said that they had a software glitch, and it cost, and one of their polling supervisors caught this, that they had a software glitch, and 6,000 votes in one county in Michigan, 6,000 votes went to Biden when they were supposed to go to Trump. And those votes have been turned over. And now they're looking, because once they did a hand count, this election supervisor demanded that they do a hand count once they found this glitch, this software glitch or whatever it's supposed to be. They demanded a hand count, and once they recounted 6,000 of the votes in this one county that had went to Biden have now been reversed and went to Trump. And they're saying that they use the same software in 48 counties. So I'm sure they're not going to find 6,000 votes in 48 counties that are all going to go to Trump. But let's say they did. That'd be 240,000 votes or something like that. And Trump only needs like 100 and something thousand to overtake Biden in Michigan. So my other question is, if this is a software glitch, what other states use this software? How come they're not saying that? They're keeping that on the hush-hush. I mean, Michigan's coming out and being transparent, but what about these others? I'm sure it's not just Michigan using this software. So it'll be very interesting to see. But what we do know now for a fact is there have been, my other question to you guys is, what are you telling me that computers can't count now? I don't know if I believe this software glitch. So computers can't count. I know I've been using a calculator since I was in elementary school, and I don't think I've ever put 2 plus 2 in a calculator and it gave me 6. Calculator's a little computer. So you're telling me these computers can't count? Something is amiss with the whole thing. Now, there are things called software glitches, and software glitches do happen. But my question with this software glitch is, who was doing the programming? Who programmed this software? Who is the company that provides this software for the voting polling? Who is this company? We need to know who this company is. We need to know what other states might be using this exact same software, because I know a lot of places use the same software. If there's a good, like Microsoft. Is Microsoft being used in California? Pretty much. Is Microsoft being used in anywhere in the world? Microsoft is used. So if there's a major Microsoft glitch, it could be everywhere. So that's what I want to know with this polling software. In the United States, who's using this same polling software that could be off by 6,000 votes in one county? I mean, that's one county. I mean, we're not talking about the entire state of Michigan here. We're talking about just one county. And 48 counties in Michigan supposedly use this same software. So they're going to have to go back, and they're going to have to hand count this. They're going to have to hand count these votes. And I absolutely 100% believe they need to hand count these votes in every single battleground state, or any state that's even close, even like Arizona, Nevada, maybe not Nevada, but I think Arizona, I would say Nevada, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, any of these states that there's could be like that 6,000 votes in one county could mean the election. Any of those, like California, not so much. Texas, not so much. Florida, not so much. But you know what I'm talking about. These 5 or 6 states that are key states. Pennsylvania is the big one, because this is what I said. I said in 2016. If Trump won Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin, he would win the election. Bam. He won all of those, I believe. I think he won Ohio. I know he won Michigan and Wisconsin. So I said he would win the election. Maybe he didn't win Ohio. I can't remember. But I knew Michigan and Wisconsin were the 2 key battleground states. Oh, in Florida. Florida in 2016. I said this election, if he won Pennsylvania, he would win the election. So I really still feel that way. Random Nomad says PA is red right now. I won Ohio this year. He won Ohio. Biden won Ohio this year, right? Terry says there's one company that supplies the mail-in ballots for 21 plus states. That's what I figured, Terry. So it's going to be very interesting. I really had planned on doing more research when all of this came out, but I ran to get something to eat. And then, like I said, I got a surprise phone call from a very good friend of mine that I love her to death. And we ended up talking for like 2 hours. And I basically had to just tell her I had to go because I had to do my podcast. So I didn't get to do as much studying on this as I wanted to, but I did look into the Michigan thing. So it's going to be interesting. And like I said, I'd already conceded pretty much the last podcast that Biden won because I didn't want to go through all of this. I'll be honest with you. This is the exact reason, 100%, why I didn't want all this BS these mail-in ballots. It wasn't because I was trying to suppress the vote. It's because I knew it was going to turn this counting process into a major cluster. And that's exactly what it's done. We don't know when we'll know who the president is. It may be 6 months from now. This is going to go into court. If you think this is going to be over in a week or so, it's not. Pennsylvania is blue right now. Okay, Random Nomad, I thought he said it was red. He did. It's okay. So it'll be interesting. But I do believe that I do believe that whoever wins Pennsylvania will probably win it. And it is in Arizona. Yeah, Arizona is blue. But I'm saying those 2 states need to be recounted, Terry. They need to be hand counted. Personally, I just don't see all of these states that went for Trump. I just don't see them switching over this year for Biden. I just don't see it. When you have a conservative majority in those 2 states, I just don't see that happening. I mean, stranger things have happened. I just don't see it myself. David Lowenthal, thanks for doing this. Have you heard of the watermark sting operation? Yes, David, I have heard of that. Hey, good to see you, David. I think you're a new name in the room. Glad to see you. Appreciate you joining the podcast. Yes, I have heard of that. I heard about it right when it kind of just broke, that kind of broke. But I kind of took it as the QAnon thing. I don't know if that's real. I will be honest with you. I'm praying that it's real. I hope that it's real because that could be a major thing. And Trump's a smart guy. If you ever read Art of the Deal, you know that Trump, he read and is a big fan of The Art of War, which is one of the greatest books ever written. So Trump always looks at these things. So there being a watermark in these ballots, it's an official watermark. Could be real, but until that's actually proven, I'm kind of skeptical of it. I would love for it to be real, though. But I knew a guy right here in California that just said on the Joe Rogan podcast, I think yesterday or day before, that he's a Democrat and he voted, and then he looked it up or he said somebody actually called him. Somebody called him and said, hey, man, your vote has been disregarded. Your vote has been cast out. You didn't do this right, or he didn't do something right. And they said, you need to get down here quick and redo your vote or your vote's not going to count. And he didn't want to go do it. So he's just like, forget it. But I think he voted Democrat. So there was a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of votes that that don't get counted because of discrepancies or something somebody did wrong. So that's the other thing is I want to make sure that there's no voting still going on. I worry about that. I don't know how many of you worry about that. I worry about that with these mail-in ballots. Every single mail-in ballot that they count has got to be it's got to be posted, or it's got to be dated. It can't be dated after November 3rd, after Election Day. It's got to be November 3rd or before, right? If you get a whole bunch of ballots coming in, it says November 4th, those ballots can't count. You got to get it in before. So that's another thing that I worry about. And there was something else I was going to bring up. Maybe I'll remember it. Joe P says, I have Art of the War in the bus for light nature reading. Yep. Good one, Joel P. Terry S says, me too, but doubtful at this point, but still praying. Same here, Terry. I still think, I'll be honest with you guys, I still think don't get your hopes up. That's what I would, that's my best advice for you is don't get your hopes up. I mean, the Dems have done everything they can to make sure they steal this election, and they've pulled out all stops. So I really, I'd give Trump probably about a 40% chance of maybe pulling this thing out. But I'm just, it's going to be interesting with this Michigan deal, if this is widespread, or is it just going to be, like when they start hand counting all of these other counties in Michigan, that's really going to tell us, because if they start hand counting all these other counties in Michigan and there's only like maybe 50 votes, 60 votes, but if we hit another even 1,200 or 1,000 votes in one of these other, in some of these other counties, that's going to mean something when this election has come down to just thousands of votes. I mean, I think there's some states that are like, less than 10,000 votes difference. And the other thing is in Michigan, I posted this on my Facebook, one of the Republicans that had already been contacted and told that they had lost, they got another call today or yesterday telling them, hey, guess what? There was a software glitch and you actually won. So they're already overturning people and let Republicans know that had already been declared a loser. They're actually having to call them back and tell them, oops, we messed up. You actually won. So don't let anybody on the left come at you sideways telling you that there's no voter fraud and everything's on the up and up. And be sure to remind them that these are the same people that for 3 years drug on a Russia investigation that was all based on conspiracy that never handed out after a 3-year investigation, never handed down one Russian indictment for collusion. Not one. They'll try to talk about all the people that got indicted in Trump's circle that went to jail. Okay, not one of them got indicted for what the investigation was for, which was Russian collusion. Not one. There was no ties to anybody with Russia. Matilda says, I haven't slept well since this crazy began. No doubt there's BS going on. Exactly, Matilda. I think we're probably all in the same boat on both sides. Terry S. says, but the Supreme Court Justice just stepped in. Jesse read it to me earlier. Yeah, that's probably where this is going to end up, is the Supreme Court. But what I think needs to happen is I think there needs to be a hand recount. We need to get rid of this computer counting, and there needs to be hand recounts in any of these key battleground states or battleground counties where it was very, very close. Now, if you have a county, let's say, like in Lubbock, Texas, where I'm from, would almost bet 5 years off my life that it was all pretty much majority red. If you look at like downtown Detroit, it's going to be all majority blue. You're going to have probably 60-70% blue for Biden. In Lubbock, you're probably going to have 85 to 86, maybe 90% for Trump. You don't need to recount those counties. But if it's a county somewhere where it's pretty much 50-50 split between political affiliations, and there's like, even 6, 7, 8, 10,000 vote difference is all there is, that needs to be hand counted. And they need to redo a count on those. I actually think they just need to recount all of, like I said, 5 of the 6 states. It needs to be, it needs to be an automatic recount by hand, especially if we're having software glitches. 6,000 votes in one county. That's a big mother effing glitch, man. That's not like 600. That's 6,000 in one county. That's a big glitch. When we're talking about just 6,000 votes in between Trump and Biden in some of these states. Random Nomad said Austin, Houston, Corpus Christi were blue in Texas from what I remember seeing. Yeah, any of those major metropolitan areas. That's why I said Lubbock, because Lubbock's going to be red. Lubbock, Midland, Odessa, any of the rural communities is going to be red, red, red. But that's what's that's what gets me about this whole thing with Georgia, because, Texas is like that. You have these major metropolitan hubs like Houston and Austin and even Dallas that are blue, that are majority blue for these big metro centers, the cities. But even those people in the cities, they don't overweigh all of the rural communities, like the little towns like Lubbock and Amarillo, Midland, Odessa, East Texas, or Stephenville, Tyler, Terrell. All of these surrounding are all red, hardcore red. So even those metropolitan areas aren't going to turn the state of Texas red. They talk about it happening, but it has never happened. So that's what gets me with Georgia, because Georgia is the same way. I've worked extensively in Georgia. Yes, you have a large black or minority population in Atlanta, but that's just in Atlanta. I mean, you get outside of Atlanta and even to Peachtree City, which Peachtree City is a freaking suburb of Atlanta. You drive into Peachtree City, it's white bread America. Everybody's white and everybody's super Republican. I mean, you're going to have a few mixed in liberals, but I mean, it's probably, Peachtree City's probably 90% Republican. I don't remember anywhere in the country where I heard the N-word more than I've heard it in Georgia, Alabama, Texas, still to this day, Louisiana. I mean, I was in a gas station in Alabama one time, and these 2 old men in front of me were talking about these, they were using the N-word. Oh, them, and I was like, wow, where am I? I have to step back in time. I'm just standing in line at a gas station, and these guys are in front. 2 old men are in front of me. They're probably late 50s, early 60s, and they're talking about black fellows, but they're not using black fellows. They're using the N-word, just like it's like 1965. It's like, what the hell is going on right now? And the Random Nomad says Texas Tech is in Lubbock. Yes, it's a college town. Very true, but it doesn't matter. It's still very red. You do have tech there, but it's still a very, very, very red. I grew up there. Believe me, I know. And I was just there. I just flew into Lubbock 2 weeks ago. And it's nothing but Trump banners as far as the eye can see. If you get on the road outside leaving Lubbock, it's nothing but one Trump banner from literally Lubbock to Clovis, New Mexico was the first Biden. My brother and I saw one Biden banner in downtown Clovis, New Mexico at the cattle sale barn. They had a huge Biden banner up on this building. And our jaws fell. We were like, "Oh my God, there's finally a Biden banner." Him and I drove all from Texas. We drove all over Texas, all the way down to Pecos, all the way to Midland, Odessa. I flew into Lubbock. We drove all the way to Hobbs, New Mexico, to Tucumcari, New Mexico, Clovis, New Mexico, and finally in Clovis, we saw one Biden banner. And we had seen hundreds of Trump banners throughout New Mexico and Texas. But the funny thing is New Mexico always goes blue. It's always a blue state. But it's because of you get up northern New Mexico, up around Santa Fe and Albuquerque, and it's all blue up there. Random Nomad says, I think honestly most Dallas was red. That's a tricky one, Random Nomad, because I know a lot of people in Dallas, and it's very evenly split. I know a lot. I know just as many liberal, because I literally could say I probably have like 50 good friends still in Dallas that I still communicate with. And out of those 50, it's literally split 25-25. 25 of them are raving liberal, like almost like California liberals. And the other 25 are hardcore Republicans. And the other thing I'll say about that is almost every single one of my Dallas friends that are blue and Democrats are not from the state of Texas. They've moved there from some other state. Like my good friend Danny Campbell, he's from Pennsylvania. He's a raving liberal. And he lives in Dallas, and I've known him for years. And he's just as bad or worse than any California liberal. Random Nomad says the AP map thinks showed that, but could have been read that wrong. Yeah, I'm not arguing with you, Random Nomad. I'm just saying that I would say that Dallas is pretty split, or it's probably blue right now. I would say it's probably blue. You've had like since I left there in 2006, since Laura Miller was elected mayor there in like 2003. I don't know. A lot of times I'm just talking off of memory instead of looking things up for fact. But anyway, when Laura Miller was elected mayor there. And then I can't remember the black mayor, but they've all been Democrats. So it's been pretty much politically controlled by Democrat for the last, I want to say 15 years, maybe 20 years, Dallas. And I will say in that time, because I moved to Dallas in 1988, and it was a very nice, pristine little conservative city. But once the Democrats have taken it over, the crimes went through the roof. Dallas has fell off. I was there in Dallas a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, and I drove through with Travis, my buddy, and everybody that I know in Dallas go, oh, Dallas, anybody that I know, like family members, like my stepsister, my friend Leah, people that lived there in Dallas that I knew that hung out with when I was in Dallas. Anytime I say something about Dallas, even my son lives in Dallas, and he's like, oh yeah, well, Dad, Dallas ain't like it used to be. And I was always like, well, what are you talking about? What do you mean Dallas ain't like it used to be? And then I get to Dallas and, Dallas ain't like it used to be. It's fell way off. It's not as bad as LA, but it is not the Dallas, the little conservative, nice, pristine, clean Dallas, low crime Dallas that I remember. It's got a lot of problems now. And I discussed that on the last podcast with the Laura Miller and her Section 8 policy, where she made it where every apartment complex had to have so many Section 8 apartments or low-income apartments so people could spread out of Oak Cliff and Pleasant Grove and live anywhere in the city of Dallas. So that pushed middle-class families so basically you would take these people out of the ghetto and let them move into some brand new, really nice apartment complex, and then they would turn that building of the apartment complex into Ghettoville. And then other people that love the nice, quiet apartment complex, well, they get sick of driving and looking out their window when they get home from work at this one Ghettoville building where you got dudes hanging out in the parking lot smoking cigarettes, drinking their 40 ounces, holding on to their junk while they're have been at work slaving away for 8 to 10 hours a day, and they're tired coming home, and those homies are out there bumping the music in the apartment complex, you know what I mean? So what do? What do all the nice white people do? Oh, they pack their shit up and put it in a U-Haul, and they buy property or they move further out of Dallas. That's called urban sprawling. Detroit is the mothership of urban sprawl. Detroit was the first city that this happened in, when all of the southern blacks moved up from the south up to like towards Detroit. And Detroit was one of the biggest conservative cities in the United States back in the late 50s, early 60s. Then you had all of these influx of what Detroit is today. Looked like we had some buffering going on there. But anyway, yeah, it is what it is. But Dallas has fell way off since Democrats have taken it over. And that's what Democrats do. They ruin every city they get a hold of. Yeah, sorry about that, Random Nomad. That might have been my, I don't know if it was YouTube or if it was actually my internet connection. But yeah, you get, most people that work hard for a living, they just want to live in peace. They want to live in peace. They want to have low crime. They don't want to have to worry about their kids, going to the mailbox and making it back in safely. They don't want to have to worry about, drive-by shootings. And most people just want to live in peace. And then you push in people that live in turmoil. It doesn't mix well. So the people that want to live in peace, they flee. And then the whole area turns into a ghetto. This isn't rocket science. It's happened over and over and over and over and over. If you go over to Florence Graham right now, here in downtown, 4 miles south of downtown LA, where I talk about it all the time, I ran about it because I had to be over there for a year and a half. It is a literal hole. I mean, it is so bad. I've been to Tijuana, Mexico. I've been to Juarez, Mexico in the last 5 years, and I will pick either one of those places over Florence Graham. But what Florence Graham is here in LA, and you talk to people in LA that's lived in LA their entire life. You go, hey, have you ever been to Florence Graham? They don't even know where it's at. But Florence Graham, Florence and Normandy are where the 1992 riots kicked off here in LA. And so it's just right down from the city of Florence Graham. It's like I don't know if it's a full city because it really doesn't have its own police department, but it's like a district, I guess. But anyway, Florence Graham, in probably, I don't know how many years, but all of the non-English speaking Hispanics have moved into the Florence Graham area and pushed out all of the blacks. So now there's this big gang war between the old Compton blacks, or the old, the old, like, what, the NWA, that we used to see, the Crips and the Bloods back in the day. Now you have the, what do you call them? The MS-13, and there's a big gang over there that's called FF-13, which stands for something Florence 13. So you have like the Crips and the Bloods fighting the MS-13, but the Hispanics have taken over Florence Graham. It's probably, I would say it's probably 99.8% just people that do not speak English. All they have is Mexican grocery stores over there and everything. And the entire neighborhood is a filthy disaster. I mean, they have taco carts out in the street where you're pulling up to a red light and you're just like, where am I? Am I in Bizarro land? Because there's a taco cart right in front of me. In between me and the red light, there's a taco cart. They'll be right out in the street. They'll make a big, like one of those big flat grills, that you have like in a Denny's or something, where they put all the eggs and the hamburger meat and the bacon on that one big flat grill. They'll be cooking that Mexican barbacoa or whatever, that Mexican steak on one of those flat grills. And I was going to take a picture of this one time, but I just felt like people had noticed me taking a picture of it. But they have one of these big flat grills, and it's literally out in the middle of the lane. And I remember one time walking by there, and the LAPD was stuck. An LAPD cop car was stuck behind this grill trying to merge over into the left lane so they could get past the grill because the light was green, because the grill is blocking the whole lane. There's people sitting around it eating tacos and stuff. So it's a 2-lane road. So if you pull up to the red light, the people that are in this lane are blocked by this freaking grill that's sitting in the middle of the street. And I've seen the LAPD having to merge in behind these cars and trying to push over so they can get around this effing grill that's in the middle of the street. Where on earth, where else in America are you able to put a grill, a cooking grill that you'd get at a big cooking grill that you'd get at a Denny's in the middle of a live traffic lane, and the police, nobody says anything about it. They don't have no permit. Who knows what you could get eating there? There's rats running around. You see rats running around the sidewalk wherever they're at. Yeah, so that is what you will get with Democrats running a city. And, I've pushed down here to Orange County, which is a way more red. And if you want nice and clean, you just move to where it's red. If you want low taxes, nice and clean, especially if you want nice and clean, move to where it's majority red. If you want dirty, rat-infested streets, go blue. Go blue. But anyway, it's going to be interesting. I think we are just in the beginning stages of this whole. Everybody thinks it's going to be over, and I could be wrong. Everybody thinks it's going to be over in a couple of days, and they're going to announce a winner. I think we could be like in the beginning stages of this crap show. And the other thing I wanted to talk about really quick is, so somebody texted me yesterday, and a friend of mine, she texted me, and she said, do you know that during the entire election and still today, that if you try to run any kind of ad on Facebook, that that Facebook will not approve it. If you run a pro Biden ad, if you do something and you do like a pro Biden ad, that they'll approve it immediately. But if you do anything that's kind of derogatory or is not perfect, shining a light on Biden, if you just have a different perspective, Facebook will immediately reject your ad. And I was like, nah, I hear that kind of stuff. I know this social media stuff. You know what I mean? I'm streaming this on YouTube for you guys right now. Now, I battle with YouTube because I can tell you right now, as soon as this podcast is over, YouTube does not like me, so they will flag this podcast. So there's no advertising for it. As soon as I get off here, that's one of the first things I have to do is I have to go into the monetization button, and it'll say limited monetization or no monetization, and it gives you an appeal button so you can hit the appeal. Well, when you hit the appeal button, or it'll say if you think we've flagged your video, if you think we've flagged it by mistake, you can hit the appeal, and we will have somebody look at your video, and they'll either approve it or reject it. Every single one of my podcasts has always been approved, but every single one of them, I have to go through the pains of going into monetization and seeing that it has a dollar sign, but if they demonetize it, it's a yellow dollar sign instead of a green one. So I go in there, yep, it's been demonetized, so I have to hit the appeal, and then I have to wait for usually 24 hours, and then they'll have somebody actually sit down and watch the video, and then they'll approve it. Which to me gets under my skin for the simple fact is I have to do that. I do this podcast 3 times a week. They do this to me every single time. They've never once not approved of my video. So you think they would look back like, hey, has this guy ever really broken the rules? We have to watch every one of his videos. Have we ever found any of his videos that just completely violate our terms of service and we have not monetized it? If I broke the rules like even 2 or 3 times, or if I did do something that was, not advertiser friendly, I understand that, but I don't even try to cuss. I don't try to use the F word. I might say, small cuss words, but I try not to use any major profanity. I try to, mute any profanity. So I'm not really cussing. I try to play by their rules so my videos can be monetized. Does that make sense? So I really felt like, that Facebook was the same as YouTube. I mean, why would they be that much different? So, my podcast from Wednesday, election day, or the day after election, Tuesday, YouTube watched it and they approved it for all advertisement. It's got advertisement on it right now. You can go watch it. I labeled it Biden 2020 worse than COVID-19, and because I seen this meme. It was somebody's sign in the yard. I thought it was pretty funny. And I thought it would be like an attention grabber, good for a thumbnail. So that's what I named that podcast. But it wasn't just totally bashing Biden the whole time, that podcast, if you watched it. So I figured Facebook would be right along those same lines. So what did I do? I went in and I put in I applied to run an ad for 1 week on my last podcast. So you would see my podcast, like you'd see it show up sponsored in the Facebook advertisements, basically. And you don't really ever get any traction off of that. It's not worth the money. Even if you spend $10 with Facebook, you won't make $10, pretty much probably off of, unless you're doing something that's crazy, like a viral video or something. That's the only time people really pay attention to it. But I wanted to do it just to see if what I was being told via text was true. So I went in, I set everything up, and I ended up to be on the safe side. I actually picked the demographics of the places where my video was going to run. So I picked places that I knew were going to be hardcore hardcore right places. I picked Lubbock, Texas, Amarillo, San Angelo, Midland, Odessa, all of these little Texas cities that I knew that people were I know people were majority conservative, and my video wouldn't be offensive to them, talking about, Biden versus Trump, because those areas are pretty much pro-Trump. So I actually picked the demographics for my video to be advertised in. So I would have bet money. I literally would have had bet money, and I put in for the advertisement to go out, and it's got to be approved by Facebook. I've done several ads on Facebook. I've never had one declined, and I've done some ads that were a little, racy, with girls, with scantily clad girls, and they've never been declined. So I just had no inclination that my ad would be declined. Sure enough, it didn't take an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and I got a message through Facebook saying my ad had been rejected. And the reason they rejected my ad was this was my favorite. They rejected my ad because they said, they gave the reason. It's probably like it's a pre-form, or it's an auto response thing that they're sending to you. I would say, I'm sure somebody didn't. I'm sure it's a computer software generated algorithm that probably checked my ad, but they sent me a thing that rejected my ad because it said that they reject any ads, and it goes against their guidelines if you're trying to sell a product that could be deemed being spam, or being what was the other word? Being spam, or being scam, SCAM, like spam, SPAM, or scam. Wait a minute, scam? Like I'm trying to sell you like some kind of egg beater that's not really an egg beater or something, is what they made it sound like. Or, like I'm trying to peddle Amway, or, Herbalife, or I don't know, some other, like MLM or something is what they made it sound like, is the reason they rejected my podcast talking about Biden and Trump. I ain't trying to scam anybody, and it's not spam. That doesn't even make sense. But that's what their rejection said. Our new guidelines for 2020 rejects anything that could be viewed as a product that's being advertised as a scam. What? That doesn't even make sense. But it does make sense, because there was probably really no way for them to legitimately reject my ad. So that's what they had in there that they could choose from. So they just chose something that didn't even apply and didn't even make sense. But that is what we're up against as conservatives. And that's why you do have to be worried about this whole thing, is because there is a whole half of the country that's out there trying to take your platform away if you don't agree with them on politics, trying to take your voice away, trying to make sure you can't run any advertisements for your business. They want to get you fired. They don't want you to be able to work because you might not support BLM. They're walking up to people in restaurants saying, raise your fist, and if you don't, they're persecuting you and stuff like that. So, we're in a very strange time, and if Biden wins this presidency, it's going to get a lot worse for all of us. So we're really going to have to stand up. No matter which way this presidency go, you really got to stand up and fight for your rights right now, because there's a whole demographic of the population in this country that wants to take your rights away because you don't agree with them politically. And the sad part about it is that's a slippery slope, man. People aren't going to put up with that for, either way. It's not, that's the, that could be the camel that broke the straw that breaks the camel's back, which in that case, everything goes south. I do want to touch on, we're at 54 minutes. I'm going to try to wrap this one up at an hour, guys. Last podcast I did, I just ran on for like a couple hours because it was the day after election, and I was just kind of letting it flow. I'm going to try to keep this one right around an hour, but I do want to mention, this will probably get this video demonetized, but former Breitbart editor Steve Bannon actually got his Twitter account removed. I think he got booted, and he was like White House, something to do with the trial. I don't even remember what his title was. But most of the people on the left, they label Steve Bannon a far-right Nazi, a far alt-right Nazi is pretty much what they have labeled Steve Bannon. But anyway, he got his he ended up getting his Twitter account banned yesterday, along with some other person that he was tweeting. They were tweeting back and forth. So I had to go see, like, what in the world what got them, what would get Steve? What did he say? And so I looked at the media, and the media spin on it was Steve Bannon calls for Dr. Fauci to be beheaded. Steve Bannon and some other guy that wants Dr. Fauci and somebody else in politics, they want them to, they're calling for them to be beheaded. I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. I got to check this out. And I got to be careful myself, because the funny thing is my last podcast, I did say something about, this could be like Game of Thrones. You might see people being beheaded and their heads put on a spike, and it's kind of off the cuff. I'm not actually telling people to go behead anybody and put their head on a spike. It's not what I'm saying. So I go to see what Steve Bannon said, and I find out he said exactly kind of what I'm saying. They were talking about, like, back in Roman times or back in some other times when somebody did treason, they were beheaded and their head was put on a spike. Steve Bannon got his whole Twitter account removed and thrown off Twitter for that, discussing that with somebody else to that extent. So that's exactly what I'm talking about, is these people are out to silence you one way or another. And they don't understand, man. They do not understand what they're playing with. They are playing with fire, and they don't get it. When it comes down to it, conservatives feed this country. Liberals don't feed the country. Do liberals make your movies? Yeah. Your entertainment? Do liberals, do they make up most of the music bands you listen to and stuff? Yes. Do they make all the entertainment you watch on Netflix? 90, I would say 99% of it. All far leftist liberals are making most of everything that entertains us. But can we live without that? I can. I don't know about you. I can't. I even work in it. It's my job. I could live without it. If it went away tomorrow, I would survive. I would rather watch YouTube. I would rather watch you or somebody I know, like Joe Rogan or Tim Cast, or Tim Pool from Tim Cast. I would rather watch or Ben Shapiro. I'd rather watch somebody like that than watch a movie. Now, I enjoy a movie. I watched a movie last night with Keanu Reeves in it. His new movie called Knock Knock on Netflix. So I enjoy a good movie, but if I had to live without it, I could live without it. But what conservatives create is the food that we ate. So all of these people in these major metropolitan areas that are calling for civil war, or ready for civil war, what are they going to do when they get hungry? Because I know myself, if I had to go up to the mountains right here, I could go up there and get me a rabbit. I could get me some quail, pheasant. I can eat. Believe me, I know how to skin and clean an animal. I'll survive. What are they going to do? They're going to die by the droves. By the droves. A civil war, there might not even have to be that many gunshots. You know what I mean? Let's see. Detroit what? What is up, Detroit what? Greasy Gretchen Whitmer is trash. Lock her up. Yes. So I'm taking it you are Detroit what? I'm taking it that you are in Michigan. Let's see. Yeah, that's your amazing governor you got up there. So I feel you. I feel you, Detroit what? Just for the simple fact is we've got a governor that's worse than yours. Imagine that. I live in California right now at this present time, and our governor, I call him New Scum. That's one thing I do love about Trump is he's so good at the nicknames, and that's one of my God-given gifts too. I can just come up with these great nicknames, and I call Governor Newsom of California New Scum. Because he's the same old thing as Pelosi. He's Pelosi's nephew or something like that. That whole family's been running this state into the ground the last 30 or 40 years. The whole Jerry Brown, that whole clan. They're like a whole clan of San Francisco elites up there that have just been ruining the state. And the people in the state are so intelligent that they hate it. They're fleeing the state like rats off of a sinking ship from the 1800s or the 1700s, but on the other hand, they just keep voting for more of the same. They just want more of the same. I'm almost positive that they actually voted for this new property tax hike here in California. The insanity never ends. Make sure you eat the organs of the rabbit so you don't die of rabbit starvation when you're eating rabbit to survive. Yes, because rabbit is a very high protein, very low fat meat. So you do. For those of you that don't know, because this is a lost thing, and I was listening to some hunters the other day. Back in the olden days, of the Native American days, people don't realize this, and we've lost it. We don't get it. Because it just doesn't, a lot of people just find it taboo or they don't like it. But back in the day with the Indian, the native population or the Native Americans, they actually they considered like the organs the best part of a buffalo, like the heart, the liver. Those were the things that they cherished the most, and because those are the things that are the best for you in an animal. Like they call it the muscle or the meat, what we actually eat and steak and everything, that was actually what they used for long term. But what their delicacy or what they loved the most was eating the liver, the heart, the tongue, all of these things that we find taboo today. So just, if you're going to, I'm really looking to, if I change my diet, I want to get back to that more, instead of just the red meat, if you eat the organs instead of just eating just a big steak. Does that make sense? Now, I'm going to be the first one to tell you, I'm not a huge fan of liver, but it's not bad if it's cooked right. People like used to eat, liver and onions, I guess, was a big delicate or big people that love that. But beef liver, buffalo liver, all of that stuff, if you want to add something that's really good for you to your diet, and if you can acquire the taste for it, start eating liver. I know a lot of people in America eat like chicken liver. That's probably the most prevalent that you're going to find. But if you can eat beef liver, buffalo liver, elk liver, or anything like that, elk heart, any of those, it's going to be much better for you. And I was just with my brother on the ranch, and he was talking about, why do I need, because there's deer season right out there where he lives, and he can get deer. I think it started like right around now, like November 5th is deer season where you can get a deer or two. And I'm like, dude, like if I lived out here, I'd get me a deer every year. And he goes, why? He goes, I take care of a beef cattle ranch. I get as much beef as I want every year. And I understand that. And if you've never cleaned a deer, or an elk, I've actually cleaned calves. So I know, and it's a disgusting job. It really is. And it takes a strong stomach to do it. It's not to gut a calf or a cow or an elk or anything. But once you've done it a few times, you even skinning a deer. I mean, even taking your knife and pulling that skin away and working that skin and cutting it and pulling it and cutting it. I mean, it's not for everybody, but if you can do it, I think it's well worth to do it, to be able to have wild game in your freezer, instead of just ranch raised cow beef. Does that make sense to you guys? Like myself, let's just take myself. We ran over an hour here, so I'm going to wrap this up pretty quickly. But what I'm saying is, if I had the decision, if I was living like in a nice little cabin somewhere, and I had I could make a decision of the local butcher down in town that's like maybe 8 miles away, 6 miles away, and the local butcher said, hey, look, I can give you a couple of calves every year, or a calf, a big steer. We're going to butcher it out, and you'll get all the meat from it for free. Or you could go, or I could have the chance to go hunting and killing a couple of deer and having a couple of deer or an elk, having one elk in my freezer. I would pick the elk any day of the week. I'd rather eat elk than I had beef, raised beef. Does that make sense to you guys? Free range meat isn't bad to have. Yeah, random nomad, but free range beef is kind of it's more of a yuppie, city slicker term. If you look at most beef, it's all free range. The problem is these city liberals, they see what's called a feedlot. I don't know if you're familiar with the beef industry, but they see a feedlot. Like, I was arguing with this girl that was a model probably a couple of years ago, and she was telling me about, you don't know what factory, you're out of your mind. Haven't you seen all of these factory farms where all of these cattle are raised? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, seriously, do you know what you're talking about? She goes, I've seen them. I've been there. I've seen them. And I said, are you talking about a feedlot? And this ignorant Amos did not even know what a feedlot is. So if you don't know what a feedlot is, so let's take my brother's ranch. He has a ranch that he runs in eastern Oklahoma. He runs about 500 head of cattle. So on this ranch, organic, anabolic free, no, yeah, exactly. I understand what you mean with free range, but what I'm telling you is most cattle are free range. They're not growing these cattle. Everybody thinks that these feedlots are factory farms where they are raising cattle from calves. That's not how it works. So my brother's ranch, it is, I'm trying to remember. It's like 60 sections or something like that. So it's like 32,000 acres. 32,000 acres is, I figured it up when I was there at the ranch last time. It's 60 sections. So it's like 32,000 acres. So there's 500 head of cattle running on this 32,000 acres. It's like 60 miles by 60 miles of grassland. So the cattle, they run out there and they grow up. We went and got calves and were weaning calves while I was at the ranch, separating calves from their mothers. And basically what you do is you go out and act like you're going to feed the cattle with pellets, because you have grass pellets that you buy to supplement them this time of year, because the grass is dying because of the winter, and the natural grass that they're running in doesn't have enough nutrients. So you buy these pellets to help supplement, and it's just grass pellets that helps supplement their diet. And you go feed the cattle. Well, they know you're coming, so all you do is take the cattle with their calves back to the house, separate the cattle back out, and then let them back out in pasture, and you keep the calves locked up in pens for like a week, and then you take the calves over by themselves, and you let all the calves out in this one pasture by themselves. So my brother's got like almost 100 head of calves that have all been weaned in this one pasture by themselves. These cattle live the majority of their life on this ranch, but we actually took 21 of those calves out of the 100 to the sale. But the way it works is most of these, they graze and we get them fat, and you keep them through the spring and the summer when they can be grazing and eating and fattening them up, and then you take them to sell. And then when you sell them, they end up being in a feedlot, because that's where they, if they're a little bit underweight, that's where they start feeding them the cornmeal and stuff to really fatten them up so they really put on weight before they go to the killers to be butchered. But most people don't understand this is the way it works. So most beef that is eaten by people will maybe spend 2 or 3 months max in a feedlot, but it's spent its entire life out on a ranch somewhere. Does that make sense? And the only time that the cattle that my brother looks after, the only time that they get anabolics or anything like that is if they get sick. because you have to go out and you have to take. My brother would go out and I'd be driving the truck and he'd get out on horseback and he would ride through the herd. He would literally ride through the herd and see if any of the calves or cattle had runny noses, if they're got a big, if they have a heavy runny nose, if they have a cough, then they're sick. If they're sick, just like a human, you need to doctor them because they basically got a flu or a distemper or something like that. They'll get like this big runny nose and they'll have a cough, and if you don't treat it, you'll come back in a couple of days and they'll be dead. So these calves are, a cow at this time is like right around $1,000. So if you have 5 of them die, that's $5,000. You know what I mean? When we took 21 cattle or 21 calves to the sale barn, they brought a little over $20,000. So you don't want your cattle laying down and dying. So if they get sick, my brother that takes care of them goes out there, he'll rope them, lay them down, and give them a shot of anabolics or whatever they need to make sure that they don't die. But it's funny because most ranchers, they laugh at this whole free range beef thing and Angus too. Angus is another thing because nowadays everything is Angus. Whether it's Angus or not, the restaurant will say, "Oh, we're pure Angus beef," and it may be Corinthian cattle because Corinthians like a Mexican, Mexican bulls, the Mexican fighting bulls. They're black too, just like Angus, but they're not Angus. And a Corinthian bull from an Angus bull, they're two totally different bulls because my brother's got a Corinthian bull and he's got Angus bulls. And it's the difference between like a German Shepherd and a wolf. Corinthian bulls are mean and will fight you. And Angus bulls are as well, but they're not as aggressive as a Corinthian bull. Holstein, yep. You have Holsteins. My brother's got Hereford, Charolais. He's got Angus. Most of his cattle are Angus. He's got some Brahma or Bramer, they say in Texas, but it's Brahma. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap this thing up. We're about 11 minutes after. We still got 6 people in the room. I want to thank you guys for stopping in for this Friday podcast of the American Nomad podcast. Appreciate you guys so much. Have a safe weekend. As far as election results, I think we got a long way to go, and it's going to be interesting to see how much more corruption is found. It's going to be interesting. I think the key is going to be the Michigan thing. If they find with this with this software glitch, if they find a ton of votes, it's really going to stir up a hornet's nest. But what I kind of think they'll find is probably this one county will be the worst, and then they'll find a few hundred votes maybe in these other counties. But I still don't think it'll be enough to overturn it for Trump. But my fingers are crossed. I'm sure most of yours is as well. So that's what we're hoping for. But like I said, don't get your hopes up because the left, they have come out with all guns blazing to make sure that they get this election no matter what. The one last thing I did want to say, though, is what would be hilarious for me and what would even make it the best is what would be the best for me is if Trump loses. Of course, he's old. He's like, what is he, 74, 76, something like that? He's an old guy. So I don't know how this will play out, but it'd be funny to me if Trump loses this election and then Biden is a complete disaster, which we know he's going to be. He can't even, his dementia is so set in that he can't even talk in a complete sentence. We know that. Everybody from the left knows that. They don't even care, but Biden's going to be the laughingstock until he either kills over and Kamala takes over or whatever. But anyway, what's going to be funny is if Biden comes in, everything goes completely to shit. The stock market crashes, everything goes south, and then we see 2024 Trump wins. He runs again and wins. That would be my favorite. If he loses this one, that's okay. If he could win again in 2024, because people on the left would lose their damn mind. Goods, what's up, buddy? What's going on, Goods? He says, this is honestly ridiculous, man. What's ridiculous? What do you think's ridiculous? You think the whole waiting on the count? I think that's what's ridiculous. I'll be honest with you. I didn't want to go into this whole drug out election thing and not knowing who was the president. I just wanted it to be over election night. So that's why I actually just conceded it to Biden. Let's just get this over with. And I didn't look so much into the, where it could go as far as this, the blatant fraud that we're now seeing, like we've seen in Michigan. Yeah, the voter fraud. I completely agree with you, Goods. And now, I just tweeted this TV show, the Daily Mail TV, because I went over to get a hero, little sandwich, Greek sandwich, and I was sitting in there waiting on them to get my food, and the Daily Mail TV was going. They had this whole intro, and their intro story was about how Trump is stirring everything up, and there has been no voter fraud. There's been no proof of voter fraud. Trump's just saying that. He's just trying to stir everything up. And I tweeted him like, hey, Daily Mail TV, you might want to check what's going on in Michigan, because right now they're overturning Democrats that were elected, telling them they actually lost, and calling Republicans and telling them they actually won. So before you keep putting your foot in your mouth, you might want to call Michigan. Or you might want to Google Michigan and see what's going on in Michigan, because now we know nobody on the left. Now, us on the right, we can still say there was never any such thing as Russian collusion. It was a hoax. It was a conspiracy that the left and Democrats drug out for 3.5 or a little over 3 years. They still can't let it go. You'll still see delusional leftists talking about, oh, Putin. The Democrats investigated for 3 years, couldn't come. Nobody got arrested. No, there was never any proof of Trump with Russian collusion. What we do know is the Obama administration and some of our intelligence agencies were spying on Trump the last election, and possibly even bugging Trump Tower, which is illegal. It's illegal. That cannot be done. That is illegal. You cannot be bugging the presidential candidate that's on a different party. That's illegal. You can't do that. But Obama evidently has gotten away with it. We do know that happened, but we know there was no actual Russian collusion. But what we do know now for a fact, because Michigan has come out and admitted it, that they have a software glitch that gave 6,000 votes that were Trump votes. This software glitch, which computers all of a sudden can't count, gave all of these votes to Biden. And now they've switched them back to Trump. We know that's happened. We know that's a fact because Michigan has admitted it. So, yeah, don't tell me there's no fraud. Don't tell me there's no shenanigans going on. Don't tell me a state like Georgia, that's a hardcore red state, is all of a sudden being led by Biden. Don't tell me that, because I'm smarter than that, and all it takes is a little bit of common sense. That'd be like the flip side of that would be like saying L.A. went for Trump. Now, there were a lot of people that came out for Trump, but I don't think anybody expected L.A. to go for Trump. But if all of a sudden L.A. was Trump, people on the left would be losing their damn mind, because they'd be like, what? How could L.A. be going for Trump? That doesn't even make sense. So Georgia going for Biden doesn't even make sense. They voted Democrat 3 times since 1964, and one of those was Jimmy Carter, and another one was another one of their state their homegrown state boys that they voted for Democrat. And then the third time was Bill Clinton. They didn't even vote blue for Obama. Georgia didn't. So they're going to be voting blue for Biden. Doesn't make sense. Anyway, guys, fingers crossed that Trump pulls it out. But like I said, don't hold your breath. We'll see what happens. That's going to do it, guys. Have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves. Don't take this freaking election. Don't stress about it. I've had people texting me pictures of them smoking cigarettes because they're so freaking frazzled and not sleeping over this election. It is what it is. It's all going to work. It's all going to work itself out. But it's stressful, but that's why I didn't want this whole mail-in ballot thing, because I saw the writing on the wall with this. Everybody did. We knew this was going to be a cluster, and this is what the Democrats wanted. They designed this. They try to blame it on Trump. Oh, Trump created this with his COVID, not taking COVID serious. No. They created this. They're the ones for the last 6 months that's been going, oh, we got to do mail-in ballots. COVID's killing everybody. Have you noticed? I saw a Kid Rock meme. Have you noticed? I haven't seen any COVID news in 3 damn days. Right? I'm going to end it on that, guys. Have a great weekend. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Random Nomad, Goods. Good to see you, buddy. I don't remember seeing you before. Thanks so much. Joel P. Greasy Gretchen, James Mom, Terry S., my sister Terry S., Matilda, love you girl, David Lowenthal. I'm just going through trying to thank everybody. I don't think Travman was here this evening. I think I got everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining in the chat, and we will see you guys hopefully back here Monday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until then.
Thank you for listening to the American Nomad Podcast. Until next time, keep looking up because that's where it all is.